This is the kind of thing that happens when you have very little competition. Sony currently has very little competition. And when I say that, people are usually going to say, well, there's Nintendo, there's Xbox, there's PC, there's lots of competition for Sony. And yes, you have a lot of options for where you can buy and play your games, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're 100% competing with each other. I usually look at the gaming industry as broken into a few different lanes. There's people like me that participate in all of the different lanes where you're playing on a TV, you're playing at a PC, you're playing portably. But then most people don't fit into that category of doing everything. Most people pick a lane and they stick to it. There's the console lane, which is a device that you hook up to your TV to play games. There's PC, where you sit at a desk and play games. There's portable, where you take your games with you on the go. And a lot of times when you look at how these companies are behaving, you can tell that they don't really see each other as competition. For example, Nintendo is not in competition with Sony. Nintendo has a portable system, and maybe that will change when the PlayStation 6 portable comes out, but right now they don't have a whole lot of competition. They just do their own thing. Sony really only has one real competition, and that's Microsoft, and they have soundly defeated Microsoft, which is why they feel that they can do pretty much whatever they want at this point. And I gotta be honest, it's pretty bad. If you are anything like me, you have a lot of stuff that has to be charged. Ugreen has been sponsoring my show for years at this point, and I don't use any other chargers. So when they reached out to ask if they could sponsor a video, I said, of course, but I didn't expect what they sent me. This is the Ugreen and Honkai Star Rail series, inspired by their brand new S-level character, Yaguang. Ugreen is combining premium tech products with a collectible visual appeal for your desk setups, travel, and everyday carry. Included in this gift box is the Ugreen magnetic power bank, the Ugreen 65-watt charger, and a Ugreen retractable cable, the Ugreen fine track, and the Yaguang chibi acrylic stand in tin badge, holographic ticket, and pouch. The Ugreen MagFlow Air magnetic power bank is an ultra slim Qi 2 wireless charger. It charges at 15 watts and has a 10,000 milliamp hour capacity, which can charge an iPhone about 2 times, and it comes with a built-in cable so you don't have to bring an extra one with you. The Ugreen Nexode Air 65-watt charger is a pocket-sized 65-watt fast charger with a foldable plug that drops into any bag easily. All the items fit neatly into their included travel pouch and are ideal for travel, plus the fine track will help you track it down if you ever lose it. And if you need more power, you could always go with the Ugreen Nexode Pro power bank. It charges at up to 45 watts and has a smart display so you can see real-time battery status. So check out the links in the description down below and join the giveaway on the Ugreen website for a chance to win a limited edition Honkai Star Rail commemorative coin. A couple of days ago, Sony posted this over on their blog, and I gotta be honest, I have not been able to stop thinking about this. Physical disc production ending in January 2028 for new games releasing on PlayStation consoles. Now, the blue bolded headline here that Sony is pointing out, that they say this is in response to shifting trends in consumer preference. I want to talk about that for a second. Why are consumer preferences changing? Is it because going digital is more convenient? Well, yeah, that's the reason that I went that way. But there's a lot of people who would love to just only buy physical discs, but they don't have the option for a lot of games. So when Sony says things like consumers prefer to buy digital games, what they're leaving out is that for the vast majority of games that are released, most of them don't get a physical release. So we don't get to have that choice. And if those games were all released both physically and digitally, I think that the percentages would change a whole lot. Let's get back to what they were saying. As consumer preferences in the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical discs to digital, physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be discontinued starting January 2028. I'm going to pause here for a second and just say one bonus to Sony. They are giving us a long lead time. And this also makes me think, okay, now we know when they are planning on releasing the PS6, January 2028. Back to the article. Following this date, new games will be available on the PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital formats only. The transition has no impact on games that have already released or will be releasing prior to January 2028 in disc format. So first off, let's talk about the availability in retailers. I don't think that that's going to be something that is going to continue for a long period of time. And here's the reason why. Very few people are going to line up at GameStop to walk in there and buy a box with a code in it. I'm sure there are going to be people who like to have things on the shelf and they don't necessarily care whether or not they have a disc. So that's definitely going to be a segment of the population. But the vast majority of people who buy games physically, they buy it because there's a disc, not because of a code in a box. So with them getting rid of the discs and just having a code in a box, I think that the number of boxes that are going to be sold are going to dramatically be reduced. You're going to walk into a GameStop and a Target and a Walmart or wherever it is that you buy your physical games, and I wonder if they are if they're going to even show up on the shelves anymore. Because if people aren't interested in a code in the box, why would real retailers dedicate shelf space to that stuff when they could put other things on the shelf that people might actually be interested in? This is a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumer trends as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. This transition will enable us to align more closely with how most of our community prefers to access and play games today. Bullshit. We will continue to prioritize our resources to drive innovation on how players can access games and provide choices as to where players prefer to purchase new games. No, you're not. Whether that's retailers or the PlayStation Store. Retailers are not going to sell these games for very long. People will not be interested in buying a code in a box, except for a very, very few people, and those could just be served by buying them online directly from PlayStation. So I don't see brick and mortar retailers carrying codes in boxes for very much longer after this changeover actually takes place. We remain committed to delivering a world-class gaming experience to our fans, and we thank you for your continued support. Okay, so let's talk about my problems with this. Somebody might say, Bill, you've said a million times that you don't want a bunch of plastic shit in your house, and you are absolutely right. I don't want a bunch of plastic shit in my house. I have very few physical games in my home. Why? Because I personally prefer the convenience of just having a digital game. When I'm playing a Nintendo Switch and I'm sitting downstairs playing a game and I'm like, oh, I want to play this game. I don't want to have to walk upstairs to find the game that I want to play to plug it into the Switch. It doesn't make sense to me. So for Nintendo Switch and forward, I decided to go all digital. All of my game purchases are digital purchases. And I don't own very many physical games for that reason. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that physical games should still exist. In fact, I feel very strongly about this. I want physical media to continue to exist for all of the people who prefer that. And there's multiple reasons why you might prefer that. Some might say owning your own stuff. And then the ping back from saying, well, I want to own my own stuff is that you're just buying a license to use the disc, and they can take that away at any point. And that's true. They can. You don't own anything, and you haven't owned anything for a very long time, which is why Valve had to change the button from saying purchase to whatever else it says now. I can't remember what it says. But you no longer buy things, you buy licenses to those things. And that's just the way it's been for a really long time. But what I think is eventually going to happen is Sony is going to say, well, you know what? This game has a license for this song in the game, and that license has expired. And we've been unable to renew that license, so we're going to remove that game from your library. And there's the people that say I'm just being dramatic. Let's take a look at what's next. Here's an article from IGN. PlayStation has notified users that it will soon delete more than 550 digital movies from users' PSN accounts due to licensing agreement with Studio Canal. Sony began by sending out its warning via an email earlier this week, which says that the move affects any Studio Canal content which may have been purchased. Here's the quote: "The content will be removed from your video library. The movies will be deleted September 1st, 2026. You can see the 551 digital titles affected on a list posted on PlayStation's website." So not only have they already done this in the past, but they just did this week. They removed things that people have paid money for, and they've made no mention of a refund or giving you store credit or anything like that. If you bought any of these movies on a PlayStation, those movies do not belong to you, and they will be removed from your library, and you will no longer be able to watch them. Now, somebody might say, well, what is Sony supposed to do? They couldn't reach a licensing agreement with Studio Canal. I don't fucking care. It's not our problem to worry about what Sony is supposed to do. We're supposed to give them money. They're supposed to give us goods in return. In what other industry is it possible for somebody that you bought something from to just come into your house and take the thing that you bought? That ain't something that can happen in any other industry. So why do we put up with that shit here? I don't think that we should. And if it's happened with these movies, you can guarantee at some point it is also going to happen with games. And Sony seems to feel like the end users don't have any kind of recourse. Maybe it's because they agreed to an EULA that, whether or not that's enforceable is not my purview here. Or maybe it's because Sony knows that they don't really have any competition, so they can do whatever the hell they want. And this is also a huge hit to game preservation, because eventually when Sony shuts down these servers, and I guarantee you they're going to shut down these servers eventually, you're not going to be able to play any of these games anymore. You're not going to be able to access those unless you've already downloaded them. And eventually, those downloads are going to fail because the hardware that you have them on is going to fail, and you're never going to be able to play those games again. Those games will be gone. And if you're wondering how I know that, it's because look at this. Posted on the exact same day, an update on PlayStation Store for PS3 and PS Vita. Changes start this year in select markets, followed by global changes in 2027. After nearly 2 decades of support for the PS3 console generation, we wanted to let you know how we will be closing the PlayStation Store on PS3 as well as the PS Vita. The PlayStation Store on PS3 and PS Vita will close in select markets starting this year, followed by global closures for PS3 and PS Vita next year. That means new content purchases will no longer be possible once the PlayStation Store closes on these devices. To ease the transitions, players will still be able to download previously purchased content after the closing date for the foreseeable future. How about this, Sony? Can you define what the foreseeable future is? How long will we still be able to download the games that we've already given you money for before you take that away from us too? I don't know, because they just said the foreseeable future, and that's some weird nebulous thing like define the color red. You can't define the color red. There's 1,000 different colors that are red. You cannot define the foreseeable future. This kind of language is set up specifically so that they can, it's written by lawyers. That's what it is. They go on to say, we know this news may be disappointing for PS3 and PS Vita players who hold a special place in their hearts for this generation of gaming. PS3 and Vita represent an important era in our PlayStation history, so this was not an easy decision for us to make. And this was an incredibly easy decision for them because they know that they don't have any real competition. And even if they did have real competition, I'm sure that Nintendo and Xbox has shut down stores for their old hardware in the past as well. So this is just par for the course from the gaming industry. Now let's talk about backwards compatibility for a second, because I'm willing to bet money that the PlayStation 6 and Project Helix will not have disk drives available to them. And because they won't have disk drives available to them, you better hold on to your PlayStation 5 or your Xbox Series. Because if anything happens to those pieces of hardware, your discs are going to be nothing but paperweights. You can't just put them in a new machine. It's not going to work. You have to have that specific type of machine. And because the new machines aren't going to have disk drives, because why would they? That means you're not going to be able to play these systems once PS5 hardware or an Xbox Series hardware basically is unavailable anymore. And that is going to happen in the future. There's going to be a point where maybe you'll be able to find one used somewhere, and maybe it will work if it has a hard drive or a disk drive in it. But being able to put one of your old discs into one of your new systems, that's not something you're going to be able to do. And Sony is counting on this, because you know what happens when that happens? Well, now you've just lost access to a game that you used to be able to play. And I'm sure that there will be PlayStation 6 versions of PlayStation 5 games should that happen to you. And of course, if you've been digital all along, then you will be able to bring your library forward. I have no doubts of that. But we'll probably have upgrade costs. Hey, another $10 if you want to play this on the new system, because reasons, you know what I mean? And prices for console games are going to be higher. And they're going to be higher because now Sony controls the entire stack. Basically, when you talk of when digital games first came out, I think that a lot of us, myself included, assumed that those digital games would be cheaper than physical games. Why wouldn't they be? You don't have to print a disc. You don't have to make a box. You don't have to ship a box across the ocean. It's just ones and zeros coming from your server to my system, and then you're done. There's a whole lot less money that goes into moving ones and zeros than it does shipping a disc to a consumer. So why wouldn't they be cheaper? Well, what actually happened is physical games became cheaper. Why is that? Well, you go into a store and you pick up a physical copy of, I don't know, The Witcher 3, and then you look off in the pre-owned section and you see that, oh, there's a copy over there of The Witcher 3. So you walk over, you pick that up, and you can make a comparison in your hand. You can say, oh, well, this one's cheaper because it's pre-owned. I'll just put the new one back and buy the pre-owned one. This is something that publishers have despised for years and years and years. They have, for a really long time, wanted to get rid of the secondhand market, because the secondhand market devalues games. And I'm not saying this from our perspective. I'm saying this from the perspective of the board members that are making these decisions. And because the customer can make that easy comparison, it makes it hard for companies to not feel encouraged to lower the price of physical media. And let's just look at what happens when things go on sale on PlayStation. The physical media is almost always cheaper than the digital media is going to be, even when it's on sale. So it makes more sense for the consumer to buy that physical media because they get to save money. Not only that, but then they can also take that game and trade it in when they're done with it. And because Sony is now in complete control of the store, that means that they are almost completely in control of the price. And when you combine the fact that there will no longer be a secondary market to make that easy comparison with, I see publishers putting things on deep discounts way less often happening in the future. I think that Sony having complete control over where you can buy your games is incredibly bad for you and for me. And I'm predicting for all of the people that didn't get this far into the video, they've already made comments down below that like button that says, well, Bill, you play games on Steam. How is that any different than this? Well, there's a few things. Number one, Valve did not make this decision for everybody else. Sony is making this decision for everybody else. Sony has made this decision. They own Blu-ray. They get to decide when the discs are made and when they are not made. Valve just made a store, and all of the publishers put their games on that store. Valve didn't decide that the publishers were no longer allowed to make physical media. But now Sony is making that decision for everybody. In addition to that, to my knowledge, Valve has never just taken games out of your library without giving you some kind of refund. I know that I purchased Marvel Heroes, which was basically a Marvel version of Diablo, and it was a really, really good game. But when Marvel got bought by Disney, they shut that game down. It was an online game. and I got a full refund, not only for the game, but for all of the DLC that I bought. So like if I had purchased Captain America for that, I got a refund for that. I got every single penny back from buying that game. And that was awesome. I don't see a chance in hell of Sony ever giving us full refunds for the games that they are delisting. Look at what happened with the movies they just delisted. They aren't offering refunds for that, so why would they do that for games? But the biggest reason it's okay for PC gaming to be all digital and it's not okay for Sony to be all digital is because the PC is an open platform. If you don't want to buy your games from Steam, you can buy them directly from Ubisoft or directly from EA or directly from Microsoft or the Epic Games Store or GOG, which has no DRM at all. If you buy your games from GOG and then you download those games and you keep a copy backed up somewhere on a hard drive, then in 200 years, somebody finds that hard drive and they can find a way to plug it into a machine and have it work, they're still going to be able to play that game. On Sony, that shit ain't gonna happen. In 100 years, these games will just be gone. They will not exist anymore. And I am of the firm belief that video games are art, and art should be preserved. Just Indiana Jones, it belongs in a museum. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below that like button. I want to hear from both sides of this argument. I've said what I think, and you guys can feel free to disagree with me, because guess what? The internet would be a really freaking boring place if we always agreed on everything. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Stay rad, everybody.